Hi, everyone. Hope all is well. Parisa here. I am excited to kick off this conversation with you today about leaning into an edge, as well as what inspired uh, this desire to talk about leaning into an edge. Now, before I jump in, I am well aware that it looks like I'm in some witness protection program. I am currently in a co working space and a phone booth in a co working space. So, yeah, if it looks like the walls are closing in on me, it's because they are. They really are. This room really is that tiny. And I am excited to be with you all today and have this conversation. Leaning into an edge. Why did I want to talk about leaning into an edge? Well, as a general matter, uh, I love badasses. And for those of you who may be new to me, I define modern badasses as those change agents, those visionaries, those disruptors, those leaders who go 80 miles an hour in a 45-mile-an-hour zone without checking to see if their people are strapped in for the ride, let alone interested in the destination. Some people might call them bulls in china shops. And it's true that they might be. Really, what they are, well intentioned bulls in china shops. They don't mean to break all the dishes that they do, although we can agree that a lot of those dishes were ugly and needed to be broken anyway. So, the gift of a badass, because they are a visionary, because they are a change agent, because they are a pattern interrupter, is that they don't mind being on the edge. And the reason why they don't mind being on the edge is they believe that insight lives on the other side of being on the edge. Before I go too much into that, folks are curious what the traits of a modern badass might be. You can hop on over there and you can see the 14 traits that I've identified in my self styled field of modern badass anthropology. Uh, if you would like to take a quiz to see where you might live on the modern badass curve, you can hop over to my website. That's sixthsensestrategy.com. And there's a tab at the top that says, "Are you a modern badass?" Jump in there, take the quiz, and there will be some results and reflections and explorations offered to you as soon as you are done taking the quiz. It really does not take that long, not more than a minute or two to take the quiz. So, the inspiration. Last month, I had the great good fortune of traveling to Italy and exploring Italy. And part of my travels and part of the explorations, aside from eating all of the gelato that Italy has to offer, is that I found myself in front of the Tower of Pisa. Uh, and seeing pictures of the Tower of Pisa does not do it justice because you say, "Oh, look at that. It's leaning over. How quaint, how charming." And when you see it in person, you realize how much of a marvel it actually is. That this building was constructed hundreds of years ago on imperfect foundation, and from almost its inception, or rather at its inception even, it was leaning over. And over the hundreds and hundreds of years, it is not toppled over yet. And so I found it so interesting that that was possible and still true. Now, the other thing that's interesting about this building is a couple of years ago, engineers, experts thought that it was leaning over a little bit too much. So it was, it was at six some degrees that it was leaning over. And there was a concern that it was leaning a little bit too much. And so they they shored up the foundation so it's not leaning as much as it was leaning before. Now it's about 4 point some degrees of leaning. Still interesting. Now, what's particularly hilarious for me when I saw it was, the number of people, I mean, like, hundreds of people standing around the Tower of Pisa taking the same picture, pretending like they were trying to hold it up, whether it's because they held up their hand or they pretended that they were putting the Tower of Pisa on their back, almost like backpack, piggyback, or I should say, style. So they took something that was really interesting and unique, and they turned it into ordinary. They were fixated on doing the ordinary or taking a picture that was ordinary because hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people were doing it. And by this point, thousands of people have done it, as opposed to looking at it and saying, how could I be leaning into something without toppling over? And again, that's precisely why I love badasses as much as I do, is that they are unafraid to lean into opportunity. They are unafraid to lean into what an idea might look like. They're unafraid leaning into what possibility might look like, not because they are certain of success so much as that they are certain that they will have some sort of an adventure, that they are certain that they will benefit somehow from the experience, not being attached to an outcome. If something works out as they anticipated or planned, great, keep on doing. Keep on doing whatever it is that you wanna do, keep moving forward. If something didn't work out as planned or as anticipated, also great. That's a data point to for the next time they make the attempt that they try something different or new. In other words, every outcome is perfect. There is nothing wrong with leaning into an edge. And also in the instance of the Tower of Pisa, where they felt like maybe it was leaning over too much, it's also okay to course correct a little bit and stand back because you'd like to shore up your foundations. Now, last week I posted the latest article in my newsletter about uh, living on the dark side, or insight living where the light and the dark meet. And so insight also lives where the edges are. You know, when we solve a puzzle, when there's a 100 piece puzzle, or it's a 500-piece puzzle, or a 1,000-piece puzzle, we don't start puzzles from the middle. We start the puzzles from the outer edges and then go in. And you don't bother with the corner pieces if it's a square, rectangular shaped, or a triangular shaped puzzle, because that's just that's just a waste of time. Spend your time on the sides, on the edges, and then go into the middle where it's a little bit safer. So if that's the best way to solve a puzzle, why wouldn't that be the best way, as modern badasses like to think of it, to lean into opportunity, to lean into an idea, to create an idea, to get excited about something? Um, the gift of being on an edge is that you have broader vistas of what opportunity might look like, even when you fail. You have broader vistas of what possibility looks like, even when you fail. You build on on ideas that you have that maybe you wouldn't have been able to have had you stood back away from the edge. In other words, it's okay to be on the edge and see that something is a spectacularly horrible idea. It's okay to be at the edge and say, "Okay, I'm good at being at the edge. I'm also good with not doing something about it right now." The invitation is to be at the edge, not necessarily that you have to subscribe to a particular action at the edge. So I'll give you a specific example. This one lives with me. I grew up. in the North Shore of Chicago, and that means that there was in the summertime, I had access to something called the sports complex. Big ups to Northbrook and the sports complex. And so there was this pool. So we would go to the pool or we'd go to camp, and part of going to camp was going to the pool. And there were diving boards. And so there were the lower diving boards where you jumped into the pool. And then there was the higher platform one where you had to, climb this, to me, seemed this inordinately, like excessively high ladder to get to the top. And then you had to walk on the platform. And then once you got to the edge of the platform, you jumped. And there were any number of times where I would talk myself up the ladder and be like, "Oh, I've got this." Look at all these kids younger than me jumping off, and they weren't necessarily diving. They were just, jumping off and doing a massive cannonball. Uh, Look at all these kids. Look at all these kids younger than me. If these kids younger than me can do it, if the kids my age can do it, if the kids older than me can do it, I can do it too. So there I was in all my bravado going up the ladder, and then still in my bravado walking across the platform. Once I got to the edge of the platform, my entire body started to shake. And I would get to the very edge and I would look down and I would freeze. And I knew that the worst that would happen was that it would be a belly flop. The worst that would happen was that I would not execute a cannonball as well as the other kids, uh, had executed it, and yet I couldn't do it. I chickened out more often than I actually did it, and then I would walk back, and then everyone had to climb off the ladder because I wanted to climb down, and I got a lot of dirty looks in the process. Now, nothing would have happened to me. The conditions were there for me to be successful, and yet I chose not to do it. And at the time, that was okay. And if I were to do that again, it would still be okay. The invitation isn't necessarily that you have to do all of the edgy things all the time. The invitation is to at least contemplate the edge and see what the insight might be for you as you are contemplating the edge. Lots of really beautiful things live at edges. Uh, Gloria Steinem lives at the edge. Billie Jean King lives at the edge. Malala Yousafzai lives at the edge. Serena Williams lives at the edge. Steve Jobs lived at the edge. Thomas Edison lived at the edge. Ruth Bader Ginsburg. There are any number of people that we've heard of that have lived at and leaned into an edge for the betterment of all of us. And so, what I want to invite people to do, what I'm passionate about, is what if more people leaned into an edge? What if more people had the courage to get up to and lean into an edge? What gifts to society might we have? Whether it's culture, technology, the arts, sciences, the law, what have you. What would we benefit from if we gave ourselves permission to be at an edge and to see the opportunity vistas, to see the possibility vistas, to enjoy the idea vistas? I think about that. I think about the opportunity cost of not living at an edge. And it worries me that many of us don't. And it also worries me that there are all these badasses out there, all these visionaries, these change agents, these pattern interrupters are dissuaded from leaning into an edge because they're tired of feeling punished, or people have found ways to silence or sideline them, as opposed to finding ways to help these people champion their awesome and channel their awesome so that when they do lean to an edge, magic happens. So that's all I have for you in my chat, my connection with you all today. If you're interested in reaching out and having a conversation with me, that is an excellent way to get that conversation going. Or you can message me on on LinkedIn. And if you're curious, I have a program called Inconceivable Influence. It is a mastermind program for all of the modern badasses out there, all of you all who go 80 miles an hour in a 45 mile an hour zone without checking to see if you're strapped in for the ride, if your people are strapped in for the ride. I call it Inconceivable Influence because I believe in the strategic deployment of your raw power. And the strategic deployment of your raw power is what influence looks like. And so it's speaking truth to power with power. It means being at the table consistently with all of the decision makers. It means having access to greater professional opportunity for you. It means people reaching out to you and saying, we need you, we need your voice, we need your ideas, we need your insights. It's people stopping to listen to what you have to say, as opposed to people saying, "Oh, that's that so and so being all so and so again." So, if this is something that would be compelling to you, if you're interested in what the strategic deployment of your power might look like, would love to have a conversation with you about joining this program. And if you feel like the program might not be for you, would love to have a conversation with you about what one-to-one coaching might look like. And if you're a leader of someone who's a badass, I'm curious to get to know you and your badass better. That's all I have for you. Hoping to chat with you all soon. Be well. Take care. Bye.